I'm back in Sedona, Arizona's Red Rock country. It's time for a part 2 guide to explore even more of the trails, attractions, and spectacular views that this place has to offer, including a hike into the backcountry, a famous photo spot, a trip to the edge of the world, as well as the summit of the highest peak here. I'm back in Sedona, Arizona. One video guide wasn't enough for this beautiful and busy Red Rock adventure city. In this one, we're exploring a few popular places, a couple lesser known, and like I mentioned, a hike to the top of Sedona's highest peak, Wilson Mountain. So let's waste no more time and dive right in, starting with an easier hike at spot number 1. This is Doe Mountain, found along Boynton Pass Road directly across from Bear Mountain. This summit is nowhere near as difficult as the one it shares a parking lot with. That, again, being Bear Mountain. Learn about hiking to the top of that one in my first Sedona guide, linked above and below. Doe Mountain is a fraction of that hike, coming in at around 1.5 miles round trip and 500 feet of elevation change. So let's get to it. Park in the lot here, and display your Red Rock or annual pass on the dash of your car. Red Rock passes can also be purchased at a kiosk found in the parking lot. Once you're all set with that, begin the trail. Following signs for Doe Mountain, obviously, this one starts out with a gradual incline and straight shot, before turning into a handful of switchbacks. Doe Mountain itself is right above you too, letting you know what you have to look forward to, and about how high you'll be going. So, keep heading up. The higher you go, the better the views of the Bear Mountain Trail across the street you get. Getting closer now, the trail eventually puts you at this slight scramble. Head on up, and congratulations, you're on the top of Doe Mountain now. Essentially a mesa, the trail does wrap around the entire thing, though it becomes less and less maintained the further towards the back you go. As of writing this in February of 2025, the trail is actually undergoing work as the Forest Service expands and does maintenance on the entire thing. It will be a lot better should you feel like completing the entire loop around the top. Most folks simply take one of the spur trails to the mountain's edge, looking down on the parking lot below and Bear Mountain off in the distance. This is exactly what I did. Stopping to enjoy some Sedona Golden Hour, and grab a few aerial shots up here too. From here, it's up to you if you want to continue the loop or head back down. I do recommend going at least a little further back to get a really expansive view of Sedona and Thunder Mountain off in the distance. I myself did the entire loop, and it was, in fact, not well maintained and pretty difficult to follow. The saving grace at the end was a really beautiful Sedona sunset as I made my way down the switchbacks. Perfect ending to a first day in Sedona. And tomorrow's hike would be a little longer. Sedona is chock full of influencer spots, for better or for worse. And there was one such that I myself had been wanting to check out for a while. So, spot number 2 is Merry-Go-Round Rock. Located along the Munns Wagon Trail, reaching this one requires a moderate hike, around 6.5 miles round trip with 1,000 feet of elevation, most of that coming near the end. Now, those of you with a high clearance vehicle can skip most of the trail altogether and drive on the bumpy Schnebly Hill Road, cutting the hiking distance down to about 1.5 miles round trip. So you've managed a spot in the busy parking lot for the Munns Wagon Trail and want to go check out this shot from Merry-Go-Round Rock. Display your pass on the dash of your car and begin the trail. Running parallel to Schnebly Hill Road for the majority, and occasionally crossing it, I won't lie. This trail isn't super exciting or particularly scenic the first couple miles or so. And do be wary of the road nearby too. It's frequented by Jeep tours and 4x4 vehicles, and like I mentioned, you will need to cross it a few times while following the trail. Not to be too negative, of course, and especially if this is one of the first hikes you happen to be doing in Sedona. It just takes a little bit to get to the back of it. Once you start heading more uphill, you'll know you're getting closer. And then the view does open up a bit. Red rocks abound, and ahead of you, you'll be able to see Merry-Go-Round Rock itself right here. The thing is, we're not actually hiking to the top of Merry-Go-Round Rock, but instead, down a bit under the cliff's edge here. Sounds fun, right? Anything for that shot. Make your way up to the base of Merry-Go-Round Rock, and then almost immediately to the cliff edge opposite of it. What you're looking for is right here, this small opening down below. You probably guessed it. This is where that famous shot comes from. The easiest way down actually starts near the rock where you stand for the photo op. Heading down and to the left, it's a little bit of a precarious scramble. Sure footing should see you down in no time. From there, carefully make your way along the ledge and into the opening. This is it. Hopefully you brought a friend, or a tripod and a wide-angle lens. You'll need some of these things to capture the shot. Lacking friends, I did bring my tripod, and so naturally, got the shot from Merry-Go-Round Rock. Once you're done down here, it is worth exploring a little more up top. You do get some really nice views of the canyon from the cliff edge. And with it getting later in the day, I wanted to squeeze one more hike in on this particular outing. One I hoped would look extra spectacular during a golden hour sunset. So I hiked out and made the short drive down the road to spot number 3, the Broken Arrow Trail. I had done Broken Arrow a number of years ago in the late morning, when the light was less than ideal. That being said, I bet it's a fantastic spot to catch sunrise from. I was hoping sunset would be good too, despite essentially looking directly into the light. Just under 3 miles round trip, Broken Arrow is easier on the elevation, around 400 feet total. Parking in the lot and displaying a pass, simply follow the signs for Broken Arrow. You'll notice a dirt road running near the trail. Similar to Munn's Wagon, there's a Jeep road back here too. Watch out for traffic, as this is a popular one. Sunset seemed to be a good choice. The canyon was absolutely glowing and only getting more stunning the further in I hiked. The real view is at the end of the trail at a lookout known as Chicken Point. Why it has that name, I have no idea. But from here, the canyon opens up. Framed by beautiful red rocks, you get a great view of Bell Rock in the distance and the Coconino National Forest. I posted up here for a bit to get some golden hour shots when I heard something buzzing in the distance. A drone? I certainly hadn't put mine up yet. It was a group of paragliders flying through the canyon. How cool, and what a way to see Sedona. I filmed them coming through, and then not too long after, flying back out. They made for some really amazing shots here. With the airspace clear and lights still glowing, I grabbed some aerials of my own. Golden hour was on full display now, and the canyon looked brilliant. I could even see Cathedral Rock off in the distance too. I had made the right choice in catching sunset from here. I decided to sleep in the next morning and start the day off slow with a coffee and red velvet donut from Sedonuts. And now I was making my way over to a little different of a location for spot number 4. This is the Amitabha Stupa and Peace Park. Open to any and all. Visitors are free to walk the numerous paths throughout. Explore the quieter spaces between the trees, walk around the stupa, or head up to the Native American medicine wheel. Sedona is famous as a destination for spiritual seekers, and whether that's what you're here for or not, I recommend coming up here to take some quiet time and enjoy this place. Chakra prayer flags flutter in the wind, while beautiful views of Thunder Mountain, Chimney Rock, and Greater Sedona abound. While this place is quiet and peaceful, on the other side of Thunder Mountain is a place that is neither of those things, and one of Sedona's most popular hikes. It's Devil's Bridge, of course. What if I told you that there's another sandstone bridge in Sedona you can walk out on that's tougher to access, and with a fraction of the people? And I'm not saying don't visit Devil's Bridge either. You just need to time your visit right. My full video on that hike is linked above and in the description below. Today though, we're headed to spot number 5, Vaulty Arch in the Sedona backcountry. There's 2 ways to reach this one: via the Dry Creek Road, which requires a high clearance vehicle due to the rocky and bumpiness of it, or by way of the Sterling Pass Trail from Oak Creek Canyon. Parking for this trail is very limited, and it's no cakewalk either, at around 5 miles round trip and 2,000 feet of elevation change. Now, All Trails has it listed at 4 miles round trip, but my log came in closer to 5. Do with that information what you will. Like I mentioned, there's maybe a couple parking spots total for this trail. And while there's a few pull-offs down the road, you'll still have to walk very carefully along 89A through Oak Creek Canyon. Not the most fun walk to do. Of course, there's no parking along the road itself, meaning not a lot of people really get to do this trail. Lucking out with parking, we collected our things and made our way over to start the hike. We were essentially hiking to the top of at least a part of Oak Creek Canyon. No easy feat. The first part was, at least for me, kind of tough. It's pretty much straight up. The views are incredible and only get better the higher you get. Do turn around too as you go up to check out the canyon views behind you. In the fall, I bet this canyon is even more stunning with foliage. This was filmed in January, however, meaning our tree friends here were looking a little bit bare. Keep pushing on, and eventually you'll reach the top of the pass, a great place to stop and catch your breath. Definitely turn around to take in the views of the canyon below from here. You just hiked up from the bottom of that, after all. Crossing to the other side, it's now a series of classic zigzagging switchbacks. Don't forget, you'll need to hike up these on the way out. The layers in the rock here along this part of the trail really fascinated me, especially these big stacks here. Continue on until you reach the bottom. Some freshly installed signs, as of early 2025 at least, point you in the direction of Vaulty Arch. Looking off in the distance, you should be able to spot it now too. So, head toward the arch. The closer you get to it, the steeper the trail gets, requiring just a little bit of scrambling toward the end. This here is probably considered the main viewpoint, and if heights and further scrambling aren't your thing, you could call it here. But walking on these things is a big part of visiting Sedona, right? Maybe. Anyways, if you'd like to venture out onto the bridge, scramble upwards and make your way over to the left. It's at least a little bit precarious, but some careful footing will have you out on Vaulty Arch in no time. You do get some really stunning views of the canyon from out here. I bet it would look absolutely incredible at golden hour. Once you've had your vaulty arch fill, it's time to head back the way you came from. I did find the hike out just a little easier than the hike in, for whatever the reason. Just up the road is spot number 6, a trail that is not one of Sedona's more popular, despite having some spectacular views of Oak Creek Canyon. This is telephone trail number 72. Kind of an awkward name, though I'm assuming it probably has something to do with that giant telephone cable that runs through it. 2 miles round trip and a touch over 1,000 feet of elevation. This one is nothing but uphill in a short amount of time. You do get some amazing views of the canyon, the West Fork, some small arches, and even Humphreys Peak in Flagstaff off in the distance. Parking is limited for this one, with one large pull-off nearby up against the cliff's edge. Most of the people parking here are probably heading over to the extra popular West Fork, so maybe a good idea to start early. I'm actually not sure if you need to display a pass for this one, but if you already have it, why not toss it on your dash just to be safe? So let's get started. Thick forest and gradual inclines kick this one off, as does that giant telephone cable I mentioned earlier. Gradual inclines turn steeper, and eventually into switchbacks. Expect a handful of relatively easy scrambles along the way too. The higher you get, the more abundant the forests and greenery of Oak Creek Canyon becomes. A nice contrast with the red rocks where they do pop out. Do be warned, this trail isn't always explicitly marked. I do recommend downloading an offline map like the one found on All Trails. At around the half-mile mark, the trail flattens out for a little bit. A good opportunity for a rest if you need it. Besides the wonderful canyon views, the next highlight is going to be the small window arches found in the rock here. They make for some fun photo opportunities as natural frames. After that, continue on, of course. The trail goes back to steep from here on out, and once it heads back into the thick forest near the end, be extra careful with your footing. Conifer needles will blanket the forest floor, making it a bit slippery on this extra steep slope. Just before emerging at the top, look to your left. You get a decent view of Humphreys and the San Francisco peaks from here. Finally, the trail levels out at the top, meaning you've reached the end. Head to this boulder field off to the right for a spectacular view of Oak Creek Canyon and just how far you've come. We've done a few pretty strenuous hikes now, and with Wilson Mountain, the tallest in Sedona, still looming, it was time to take a proper rest day. If you know me from these videos, I'm always searching for that all-encompassing view. And while we were certain to get that from Wilson, there was another I'd heard of. One that didn't require hiking, but a fair amount of driving down a bumpy Forest Service road up near Flagstaff. Spot number 7 is the Edge of the World, a cliff edge view that looks down into both Oak Creek Canyon and over Sedona itself. As the crow flies, it's not that far from Sedona proper. Getting up here requires driving through and up out of Oak Creek Canyon before turning off onto Forest Service Road 535. From here, it's about 20 miles to the classic Edge of the World overlook. Stay on Road 535 until you come to Road 231, where you'll make a left. Stay on this until you come to a fork in the road, where taking the right will lead you to the Edge of the World view. Okay, so these directions might be a little confusing, right? So Google Maps gets you pretty close, and just in case, I'm putting the coordinates to the view in the description below. As for vehicles, I've seen people drive this road in their sedans, but I don't know if I would really recommend it. There were more than a few pretty rocky sections while we drove this one. Anyways, welcome to the Edge of the World. Sprawling views of Sedona and Oak Creek Canyon abound. Thunder Mountain and other famous features can be easily spotted off in the distance. It really is an amazing view, and I bet sunrise from one of the campsites here would be so worth it. Of course, people also come here for this feature, Lego Rock. I suppose it kind of does look like some Legos stacked on top of each other. I've seen photos of people who have actually reached the top of this thing, and while I wouldn't be going that far, I did want to see how close I could get. Heading down and to the right from the rim, a slightly precarious scramble can actually lead you out onto the cliff edge just before Lego Rock. There's a few tight spaces, including ducking under this curious mushroom-shaped rock, and then you're on the cliff just before Lego Rock. Getting any closer required jumping this gap, or maybe using this incredibly unstable looking tree as a bridge. I decided to choose life today, so instead, I simply enjoyed the views from out here for a bit. After this, you can call it a day and head out. I think that's doing this area a disservice though. The road back here generally follows the rim for a while, so why not continue and get some different perspectives? And that's exactly what we did, driving along and stopping for more amazing views. At one point, I found this scenic cliff edge and decided to make the hike out. From here, I put the drone up for some more aerials, getting a proper bird's eye view of this place. And with that, there was just one more place, and you already know what it is. Spot number 8 is Wilson Mountain. Standing at 7,100 feet, it's the highest summit in all of Sedona. There are 2 trails to the top. The first and more popular from the parking area near Midgley Bridge along 89A. This route is around 9 miles round trip if you're just going to the summit. About 2,500 feet of elevation change and features incredible views the entire way up, but is a bit more exposed. I say if only going to the summit because there is a side trail on Wilson Mountain leading to an overlook of Oak Creek Canyon facing north. Add this in, and your hike is now 11.6 miles round trip. The other trail to the top is the North Wilson Trail, which starts a little further down the road from the east side of the mountain. This is the route I would be taking. The North Wilson Trail is a little less exposed, provides different views on the way up of Oak Creek Canyon instead of Sedona proper, and might be just a little less crowded. Might be. It's a little longer too, at around 10 miles round trip and 2,600 feet of elevation change. So we parked in the North Wilson lot, displayed our annual pass, and got ready for what was going to be close to a 12-mile hike now, since we'd be visiting that canyon overlook. There's no sugarcoating it. We're heading up over 2,000 feet, and a lot of that is in the first 3 to 4 miles or so. Prepare for some burning legs. It's relatively flat to begin, but once you cross into wilderness land, get ready for some switchbacks. The reason I chose this one, besides the possibility of fewer people, was for a different view along the way. We'd be getting the classic Wilson Summit view once we reached the top, so choosing the North Wilson Trail over the regular one gave us these amazing red rock views looking toward Oak Creek Canyon. If you need an excuse to stop for a break, maybe just say you're admiring this scenery. Otherwise, continue on. Yes, it's a ways up. You'll know you're getting a little closer once the trail levels out for a bit and gets more exposed. You're coming up now on the first benchmark of Wilson. Behind you from here, you do get a good view again of Humphreys off in the distance. I suppose I'll plug my coming Flagstaff guide here, featuring a trip to the top of this mountain, the highest peak in all of Arizona. Once that video is complete, I'll link it above here and in the description below. Anyways, reaching the first benchmark, you'll find yourself at an intersection. Follow the signs toward Wilson Mountain. That level terrain was nice for a bit, but we're heading upwards again now. From this point, we're only about 2 miles and 1,500 feet in. You do get some nice views of the canyon rim from here, a good indicator of just how high up you are now. Eventually, you'll reach another intersection. Left takes you to the Sedona Overlook, or Wilson Mountain Summit. Right to the canyon overlook. Heading this way adds about 1.5 miles extra, but the trail to it is across a fairly flat plateau, making it an easy trek. So we headed toward the overlook. I'm not sure if it's the time of year, or the fire that clearly burned through here at some point, but this wasn't exactly the most attractive part of the trail. Regardless, follow it to the end where you get what is, in my opinion, a really cool view of Oak Creek Canyon and Humphreys again up to the north. A great place to take a break and simply enjoy some spectacular scenery. But there was still a summit to reach. So heading back to that intersection, we continued upward once more. And from there, it's not too much farther, just under half a mile. When the trees start to clear again and it opens up, you'll know you're close. Head to the cliff's edge, where you are rewarded with this absolutely amazing view of Sedona. You can see so much from up here. Midgley Bridge, Merry-Go-Round Rock, the airport mesa. It is easily one of the most incredible views in all of Sedona. From here, I simply stopped for a bit to take it all in. 12 miles well worth it, and a view well earned. Until the next time.